In this video, we're going to talk you through how you would start and create a new file in Affinity Publisher to start a new leaflet. So the first thing we're going to do is go to File at the top left-hand side and click on New. And you'll see what we get here is a window with various different preset options for how you might want your new document to appear. Now, within Affinity Publisher, there are different types of default setups here, some of which we would never need when creating a leaflet, but some of them potentially are quite useful for different things. For example, you'll see I'm currently in the print options here, and if we click on the A4 one, you'll see on the right-hand side, we've got the default settings for if we were creating an A4 leaflet. You've also got Press Ready along the top here. Now the Press Ready defaults, if I click on the A4 one for that, are slightly different, and these might be useful if you were creating a leaflet that you were going to send to a colour printer, a professional printer, because these by default have the colours set up as CMYK, which is normally what professional printers want. They also have a bleed of 3mm, which again is something that professional printers normally require. If you are creating an image for your website or a Facebook advert, you might want to use the web preset options here, because the web options have the units of your new document by default in pixels, which is always useful if you're creating something online. You've also got an option here called My Presets, and this allows you to set up a document in exactly the default settings that you would want on a regular basis and save them as a new preset of your own so that you don't have to make all the changes we're about to make from scratch every time. So if I go to the print options, which is perfectly acceptable if you're creating a leaflet that you're going to stick through your laser printer or print on a Riso machine, and I choose the A4 option, so let's say we're going to do an A4 focus leaflet, you'll see on the right hand side within all the settings here, it says A4 because we've chosen A4. It's telling us the page width and page height, which obviously are the width and height for an A4 page. It asks us what we want to set the DPI, which is the dots per image. Now this is all to do with the quality of your document when it's printed out. The lower the DPI, the lower resolution and the lower quality your document will be. The higher the DPI, the better quality it will be when printed. Normally 300 DPI should be enough to allow your document to appear in good enough quality when printed out. Some people recommend raising it to at least 600, which is fine. It won't make any difference to the size of your document. You'll see, because I've made a change here to the DPI, it no longer says A4 at the top. It now says custom, and that's because we've made a change to the default print A4 setup here, and we'll come back to that in a bit. You can set the units that your document is measured in, so we're going to stick with millimeters, but you can have other options. You can choose the orientation, so landscape or portrait. You can set the image placement policy within your document to either linked or embedded. This relates to any images, so any photos that you place in your leaflet. If they are linked, that means whilst the image will appear in your document, it isn't physically part of your document. If they're embedded, the images will appear in your document and they'll be physically part of the document as well, which will increase the size of your file. We have another video that talks in more detail about the difference between linked and embedded. You can decide the number of pages in your document. So let's say we need 2 pages. You can set a default master, and we have another video that talks to you in more detail about the advantages of using a master page. You can decide whether your pages are facing pages or not. We don't want them to be in this case. You can change the color format. If you're printing something on your own laser printer or your Riso, RGB is perfectly acceptable, so we'll leave that as it is. You can set the margins of your page. So if this is something we're printing ourselves, I want to make sure that none of the artwork on my leaflet is too close to the edge of the page. So I'm going to put a 10mm margin on here. And you'll see what I can do here. At the end, there is a little chain icon. If I click on that and then change one of these 4 margin sides here and press tab, you'll see that all 4 automatically change. If I have the chain link off and change one of them, you'll see it only changes one at a time. So that's a useful time saver if you want the margins to be all the same all the way around. And finally, we've got the bleed, and we don't need a bleed in this case because it's something we're printing ourselves. So we're going to leave that at 0. Okay, so we've made the changes we want, and now we can press create to create our new document. Before we do that though, what I'm going to do is save these changes we've made as a new preset, because this is the setup that we'll regularly want if we're doing an A4 focus leaflet. So if I go back to the top here, where it now says custom, and click on this plus sign, you'll see what it's now done is it's taken us to this My Presets tab. Now the My Presets are individual defaults that I have created with the settings that I will regularly use for different types of leaflets. And you can see that the one we've just created has appeared as unnamed 1. If I right click on it here and click on rename preset, and I can give it a new name. So let's say this is how we want our focus, A4 focus margins to be set up. Click OK. And then that will always be there when you go and create a new document under your My Presets tab. And if we then press create, you'll see we now have a new document set up with the margin we want and all of those settings that we wanted. And as I say, if you want this set up on a regular basis, if you go to File now and click on New, and under My Presets, it's there as an option every time you want to create a document with that setup.